Good morning, Rocketeers. Hi, third, fourth, and fifth graders. It's Miss Canavo. I'm starting your week off again with community meeting, and I feel so lucky. I hope you guys are having a great start to your Monday, and I'm really excited to continue on with our mindfulness unit. So last week, we read two books that really focus on mindfulness, understanding what it meant to be mindful and unmindful. This week, we're going to continue that, but really focus on using our words to communicate our feelings and using the strategies that we learned last week. So this week's big questions, there's a few for you. What problem does Fergal have in the story? What I statement could Fergal use? We're going to learn who Fergal is in just a bit. Was Fergal being mindful or unmindful of others when he was angry? How did his community help him to start handling his anger more mindfully? Is there someone you like to talk to when you feel angry or sad? What helps you most when you feel a strong feeling? So this week, as you can see, we're going to be reading two books. I'm going to start Fergal and the Bad Temper today. And then during the week, you'll also be able to read When Sadness is at Your Door. So when we start reading the book about Fergal, I want you to really think about these questions. What I statement could he use? Was he being mindful? And have you ever felt like how Fergal feels in this story? Now I want you to share out some of your I statements that you've used. So right here, there are two different I statements, sentence starters that you see on the screen. One says, I feel exhausted when, and I feel disappointed when. If you can, I would love to see some examples of your I statements in the chat below. I'm going to give you an example of an I statement that I have used quite a bit during this distance learning. I feel disappointed when I can't see my students. I feel disappointed when I can't see my family. I also feel disappointed when I have to cancel fun celebrations that I had planned during this quarantine. So I want you to put some examples in the box. If there's a different feeling that you guys would like to practice using I statements with, you can throw that in there too. I feel angry when, or I feel sad when. I want us to start practicing using our I statements so that as we go through community meeting this week, you guys know exactly how to communicate your feelings. Let's take about 5 more seconds, put a couple of more examples in there, and then we'll move on. So let's do a quick review. Using your words to communicate. If you don't use your words, how can others know what you are feeling or what you need? That's a good question. I always tell some of my students, I wish I was a mind reader, but I'm not. So the only way adults can help you is if you use your words. Mindfully using I statements. And I know that I statements are a review for a lot of you, but it doesn't hurt to practice them. We are mindful of ourselves and one another when we use I statements and a talking voice, not a fighting voice, to communicate our feelings and solve problems. So in the gray thought bubble down there, you can see an example of an I statement. I feel blank when, because blank. So our objective today is I can respect myself by being mindful of my feelings and by using I statements to express my feelings to others. So even though we're continuing on with mindfulness, now we're going to focus on how we can be mindful by using our I statements. Okay, let's get started with Fergal and his bad temper. This week, we will meet a dragon named Fergal and read about the situations that lead him to losing his cool. Today, notice what upsets Fergal. Does Fergal seem to make his problems bigger or smaller when he is angry? If you have any predictions before we even get started, or if you've read this book before, maybe put some of your thoughts and ideas in that chat. I'll give you 2 more seconds, and then we're gonna jump into the book. This is Fergal. What a nice dragon. He's a friendly little fellow. But when someone tells him what to do, Fergal gets very, very angry. Like when his dad said, "Come down for dinner," but Fergal wanted to keep playing. And then he said Fergal had to eat his vegetables if he wanted dessert. Fergal felt fury. It's not fair. Uh-oh. Do you think Fergal's gonna make his problems bigger or smaller? I have a couple of guesses, but if you have an idea, put it in the chat. I don't want to eat my greens. So Fergal didn't get any dessert, and he didn't get any dinner either. Fergal got in a pickle on the soccer field. "You're goalkeeper." "It's not fair," said Fergal. "I don't want to be the goalkeeper." Uh-oh. I think he got so angry he burned down the goal. Now, let's think about a couple of things that happened. I feel like a lot happened in the first few pages of this book. What are some events that caused Fergal to get angry? Have you ever acted like Fergal when you were told something you didn't want to hear? Now, let's answer the first question first, okay? What are some events in the book that made Fergal get really angry? Put your answers in the chat. Think about what his dad was asking him to do. Think about what he couldn't do, but he wanted to do. And then think about the last page that we read on the soccer field. Now that you put your thoughts about what events made Fergal angry, I want you to think about a time that maybe you acted like Fergal. And I know there must be at least one time, because we all have strong feelings and sometimes we all act a certain way when we're upset. So I want you to think about a time. Is it something that mom or dad or grandma or grandpa said you couldn't do, or told you you had to do something that you didn't want to do? Put some of your ideas in the chat. Make sure you are honest. It's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to be mean. What advice would you give to Fergal about noticing the way he seems to be making his problems even bigger? Now, I know 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that you probably have some really good advice for Fergal. So I would love to hear what you would tell Fergal about trying to keep his problems small. But also, think about what strategies you already learned when we started this mindfulness unit and what strategy we reviewed first thing this morning before we jumped into this book. And if there's something that you like to do that helps you keep your problems smaller, throw that in the chat too. I can't wait to see all your ideas. So that's it for today. All I want you guys to think about is when Fergal gets upset, he seems to explode on those around him. How do you think this causes others around Fergal to feel? Do you think sharing feelings with someone in his family could be helpful? What I statement could he use to share about how he feels and why he feels that way? Now, if you guys want to answer some of those questions right now and you have some ideas for a Fergal, throw them in the chat. I would love to see them. But when you guys start community meeting tomorrow for day 2, I really want you to keep these closing questions in mind as this book continues, because I have a feeling that Fergal is going to need some help to keep his anger and his problems small. I hope you guys have a wonderful Monday. I miss you all, and I hope to see you soon.